Hey, good evening, everyone. This is TJ from Friends of Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge. We are almost about to start in a minute, but thank you all for joining. I know this would be an awesome session. We have Lori Monska, volunteer extraordinaire at the refuge. She does so much for the refuge. She is, I mean, not only she drives the shuttle, every weekend, she writes the Facebook page articles that you notice. And then I have birded with her many times, and her love for ducks is just amazing. And her knowledge on what the ducks do, how do they behave, how to identify them is excellent. So she has a full agenda for today. I think we'll have a packed full hour. Laurie, thank you for doing this session with us. I know you did that in person at the refuge. This one at least records this session for people to go back and watch also. But
Thank you, TJ.
yeah, no, this will be an amazing session. I appreciate your time this evening. What we'll do, we'll take the questions towards the end. Please put the questions in there. If there was an urgent question, Laurie, I'll just prop it up for you. But you have the whole, I think there's multiple slides. You have a lot of ducks, geese, and swans pictures to go through and some IDs. So welcome. I think we can get started.
All right. Thank you very much, TJ. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. And for those that weren't able to make the live presentation because of our quacky weather, welcome tonight then. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to talk about all kinds of ducks, geese, and swans that visit the wildlife refuge, either as a resident or majority of them just migrate through. So here is all the duck species that I have seen through the refuge, and I'm quite happy to add number 22 in December when that one came up over by the estuary over off of the opening of Lake Erie over by McGee Marsh and the estuary trail. So I'm quite happy for that one. That's one of my favorites. That's hard to see. So we're going to talk about all these 22 ducks. So feel free to take notes if you need to during the live presentation. We had quite a few people, and we're going to start with our mallards. Everyone needs to love a mallard. They get a bad rap because they're beautiful ducks. And one thing I want you to note for the mallards when we learn about ID is look at this little speculum right here on this female. And can everyone see my mouse on the screen? So just remember that speculum on the female and the male there, and we'll talk about that later on. But that'll tell you some ways to help describe them. But mallards need love. And then I could say one of my favorites, but I got lots of favorites when it comes to the ducks. And this is our male wood duck with the female. The females have this beautiful white eye ring. And then when they hatch, they usually have lots of babies with them. And wood ducks is one of those duck species that females may parasitize others' nest, and she could have her own babies in there, or she could have some from other females in there. But everyone's pretty familiar with the nice crest on the male wood duck right there and that beautiful red eye. And when it comes to wood ducks, one thing to remember is to always look up in the trees. This is a male in the eclipse plumage, so this is after in the late summer when he's lost he's molted off all of his beautiful color feathers, but I still think he's beautiful. And this photo right here was actually taken in the back of the refuge off Trumpeter Trail. So wood ducks do nest up in the trees, and they will roost up in the trees. So when you're looking for ducks, always remember to look up high also. And then we've got our cute little widgeons here. So widgeons, a great, easy way to find them. They love the boss unit. You could see that white and black and white ring. Sometimes the crescent here on their eye is, instead of being green, is a little bit gold, but they've got that beautiful white forehead right there. And here's a little female over here. Looks like she's got a little bit of looks like it's kind of a little black eye on that tiny little bill. And then we have our gadwalls. Now, a lot of people don't like gadwalls because they think they're kind of drab and everything, but I think they're a beautiful brown duck. I mean, the females, if you look at them, too closely, they're going to look like a female mallard. But then kind of look around to see when you see a group of ducks, see what kind of males are around, and that'll kind of help clue you in on what you got there. But gadwalls are also called got a black butt. So if you see that little black butt on the male and see that over here, that's a telltale sign that you've got a gadwall right there. So if you got some female, you can't quite tell, look around to see what you got, because she has a very, very slight eye stripe. You can see in the sun over there, so she's very slight. You can't see any speculum on her wing most generally. So it's kind of, but on the mallard, sometimes you can, but they got a smaller head than a mallard and a smaller bill than a mallard. So it's just 2 or 3 kinds of points you need to look through when you're looking through some of these various ducks. If you've got guidebook, I recommend, if you're not liking the guidebook when you're helping to ID books, look at another ID book. So every book is different. And I can tell you, I've got 6 or 8 different guidebooks in my truck for various different species. I got some for warblers, some I like for duck, some I like for this. So if you're not liking your guidebook, look at another one and see if you can find another one that'll help you with your ducks. And here's another one of my favorites. That's our pintails. So northern pintails, no other duck has this beautiful chestnut, brownish red, reddish brown head right here. Then that beautiful little blue bill, but look at that little pointed tail. So the females do have a little bit, and I'll show you a photo later. It's not quite as long as this, but the females do have a little bit of a point that would help discriminate them from a mallard, but also the female has a darker bill than a mallard. So just just a couple little things to help tweak to learn how to describe, some of these different ducks apart. But yeah, look at that. I mean, those featherings almost look like the real feathers on that head. And then sometimes you might even be able to find this many pintails. So Boss Unit is a great place to find pintails all around the refuge and a lot of the satellite properties. And then where I was telling you, the female doesn't fully have that long pointed tail, down here in this right corner down here, here's a female getting ready to land. So she's got just a little bit of a more of a point to her body because it elongates more than a mallard does. And so that's her little telltale sign that you got a female. She's got that little bit of a reddish head there. So that's a pair of pintails landing with all these other ones taking off and mallards in here. So it's sights like this that make my heart throb when I see this many ducks in the air. Northern shovelers. They're an easy one that people should be able to ID with this beautiful bill, and you notice there's just a little bit of difference sometimes in some of the males and the females. You can see this one, the female here has a little bit of a point and the male's got a little bit rounded, but he's got that beautiful greenish black head with those beautiful yellow eyes. But it's the bill that will help discern them. So once you remember to check the bill, when you're standing at the refuge and have a dozen ducks land in front of you, you realize you have some female mallards with probably the young of year, or chicks of year, then that land right in front of you, you'll definitely know you've got a little mini flock of shovelers that landed in front of you. So these guys landed in front of me and they just started feeding. So they must have just come in for the night. And then there's that beautiful male. You've got that dark body with that white breast and that dark green, that beautiful glowing gold eye. And those are some key pointers in helping you identify your northern shovelers. So this is Tony's photos. I do have a few of Tony Everhart's photos in here. And this is one of my favorites that he's taken. This is the American black duck. And American black ducks, I call them like the chocolate mallard. So here you can see, you remember when the mallard in flight photos, when you got the white with the blue on the speculum, these guys are black and blue on the speculum. And then you've got that dark body, yellow bill most generally, and then a dark body right there. So these are your American black duck. Oh, do I have it? I guess, okay. So just think of them as a chocolate mallard. So when you see a group of mallards, you got some dark ones, you've got the American black duck. All right, now blue-winged teals. The males are really easy. They got that purplish gray head, and then they've got that crescent right here. So there are some ducks like some scops and redheads that have just a little bit of white around their bill. But just remember that the blue-winged teal has a crescent, and then he's got the grayish blue head that goes with them. Now, with the blue-winged teal, notice where her coloration is right here. On this wing right here, this is her shoulder right here. So for a mallard, if she was going to show some wings, sometimes she's going to show it down in here. So this is the shoulder right here of the ducks. So this is where she's showing her color right now to tell you that I'm a blue-winged teal. I am not a duck, or I'm not a mallard, because of course she's a duck. So just look for those little things and those little spots. You're not going to learn all these things overnight. Just try to learn one or two for each species here and there. And as you learn one or two, just move to another one. And these will help, those little notes will help take you further in your identification. My nemesis bird that I can't get a decent photo of a male. This is another one of Tony's beautiful photos of the green-winged teal. So green-winged teal has the red on the top of his head, below his eye, and a beautiful green eye stripe coming down his head and back of his neck there. And note that he's got the gray body with a little white stripe here, and he's got a little bit of black right here. But this head coloration is going to help you. But also remember that blue wing and green wing teals are smaller than mallards. So they're a smaller little duck, and they've got that smaller little bill. And those will be some identification things to help you. So when you got a small duck, think of what where the colors are to try to help you learn where some of those might be. So with the green wing teals, then can you see this wing speculum here? So even though the blue wing teal has the coloration on their shoulder, the green wing teal has the green on their speculum. So this is green and black with a little bit of white or red sometimes. Yeah, so here's one in flight with the with that beautiful green there. So one way that everyone IDs ducks is by their wings. So that speculum is a key point when you got them in flight on how to identify them. But we're going to work on helping you guys ID them on land first. But if you get them in flight, try to note what colors are in that speculum, and then you can look it up in your guidebook that way. So don't just look at the head, look at the wing to see what you got, look at the foot color, and then look to see if there's any discerning marks on the head, like on this green-winged teal here. Now, this is a fun little duck, ring-necked ducks. So a lot of people want to call them ring-billed ducks because of the ring on their bill. Well, that's the misnomer, because that's not really how they got their name. So on this photo that Tony's captured here with this male down in the lower left, you can see that red ring around their neck. That's how ring-necked ducks get their identification, is that right there. Now, the ring around their bill is how we can help identify them, because most generally you're not going to see that red ring around their neck just when they're swimming around. It's when they have to have their head extended, when they're getting ready to dive, when they're grooming or something, you might get a glimpse of that ring on their neck. But just when they're swimming around, you're not going to see that red ring. Like this beautiful male up here, you don't see that red on his, but just that ring on that bill, and that helps with the female identification too. And she's got that little bit of white there with her little eye ring. So she's an easy female to identify with, and that's always nice when you've got an easy one to help identify. And when they show up at the refuge, you can see in the background here they got mallards. So you never know, what kind of a mix you're going to get, because this is one of the diving duck species. And if you'll notice the leg position right here on this male and female, the legs are laid back. So that's a diving duck. And we'll talk about that in a little bit here. Then our redheads, whoops. So redheads and canvasback get a little tricky on how to ID for some people, but I'm going to tell you some easy little pointers on that. So the redheads have a gold or yellow eye, and then a two-tone bill. So, and they also have a round head and a normal duck-shaped bill. So here you got that dark nail tip. You've got the blue bill, you've got that nice rounded head, and there's that yellow eye, and they've got a gray body. You see over here in the sun on the other one here, we've got a nice gray body right here. Females, she's just got a nice brown, smooth brown. Can't mix her up with a mallard because her coloration is too smooth. It's not modeled like a mallard is. She's got that beautiful eye ring, that two-tone bill, and they're usually pretty easy. Now, what a lot of people can have a hard time with is telling them from canvasbacks. So, a couple things to point out with canvasbacks. So, of course, these two were sleeping, but can you see that is not a round head? That's a long neck with kind of a little pointed neck. And you see on this immature or female over here, that's got a big fat head and neck. And then that long ski slope bill. Okay, that's what they've got. These males have hiding under their wings right there is that long ski slope bill. It comes straight down that forehead. And it's kind of hard to mix them up. And they've got that beautiful, it looks like that bloodshot red eye on those males. So red eye, red head, and a non-round head is going to be your canvasback. If you've got a nice round smooth head with a gold eye, that's your red head. And then you got the body color. So with your canvasbacks, they're white, where the redheads are gray. And those are going to be your T-pointers. But seeing that silhouette with that long ski slope, that's great ID points to help learn those guys apart. So just remember the eye color and the shape of the head and the body color, and that's going to help you learn how to tell those two species apart. So now here, look what I've got. I've got your redheads and canvasbacks together. So here's the redhead right here. You can see that rounded head, that yellow eye, the gray body. Here you've got a kind of a odd shaped head, not that nice smooth round. You've got the red eye with a white body. Here's that red eye gleaming in the sun with that big neck and head there, the white body. There's our canvasback. Here's our redhead right over here with that yellow eye with a nice smooth rounded and a gray body. So I expect you guys to learn those two real easily on how to tell those guys apart. And the body shape, these are kind of, canvasbacks are long, and then the kind of the more duck shape for the redheads. And I'll give you guys an all an A+ for that one because I know you can get it. Mergansers, they're beautiful and fun ducks to find. Mergansers all have a nice little long bill on them because they eat a lot of fish species. And these are hooded mergansers. So most generally, the male has his hood down, and this is what you're going to see. Sometimes you can't even see that much white. But when he has his hood raised, it's all exposed. He does that sometimes when he's courting his female. He's trying to show off to attractors, trying to threaten away intruders that's trying to get in on his female. That's a great time to see them when they've got their hood raised, but they've got that beautiful gold eye, and look at the body color right here. And so they're an easy merganser to tell apart with that long skinny bill, because they like to go catch little fishes like the little minnows and shads around, and they can eat some pretty good sized fish. Common mergansers. So got that beautiful white body and that green head. Sometimes it's look black unless you've got the right lighting, but you've got that beautiful orange bill with that black tip on it. But he's got that nice, long, smooth body. The females, this is where it gets a little tricky with the females along with the red-breasted. So just look for the bill color, and then to make sure you've got the, a common or a red-breasted, look at the white on their breast and the white under the chin, and look at the bill color. And those are some key factors I'm trying to tell the red-breasted and the common mergansers apart. But these guys are kind of secretive. Usually when you see them, they're flighty and they're taken off. But from their body, they look like a little cigar when they're flying because of their long body. But when you see all this white with that red bill, you can recognize them in flight. And then the red-breasted mergansers. Red-breasted mergansers, they love some of the satellite properties, and I can usually find them in March when they're migrating through by the hundreds and thousands. So note for the female, see how she's got that darker bill. She's got a little bit of white on her chin, a little bit of white on her breast, but it's that bill color that you can tell her from the female common merganser. So I'm not going to keep going back and forth on my slides. So as you guys, after the program is over, everyone will get a copy of the program. And so you can go through and stop it and review it as we go through to help you with your ID. So here's what our male, he's got that red. It's kind of a more orange than red-breasted, but he's got, his name is the red-breasted. He's got that white ring around his neck, the dark head, and that beautiful red eye right there. So these guys were feeding and diving, so they've got their little, you know, wet hair look going on. But they're a beautiful, fun little duck to tell. But just look for, but you can see that beautiful shape that helps them catch all their prey that they like to go and get. So now we're into our lesser scops. So I will tell you, sometimes I have problems with the lesser scops. And that's not because the greater scops and lesser scops, sometimes they'll interbreed. Greater scops are not as numerous as the lesser scops. One of the easier ways to tell the lesser scops apart is from the little points on their head. So if it's not nice and smooth, if there's any kind of a little point like that one right there, you've got a on the very end of their bill is the nail bill. So that nail tip, that if there's almost no black there, you've got a lesser. So, but look at the amount of white that's on their side here. That little point on there and their nail bill. And you can see on the female, she's got that little bit of a little point there on her head too. But this amount of white right here, you can find that on both the greaters and the lessers. And so I would concentrate on trying to identify the males before you try to learn the females. Even I still have problems trying to identify the females sometimes if I can't get a good silhouette of them. So, but I can see that she's got that little point right there. So, and these photos I had to get from the the Fish and Wildlife Service, because there you can see that nice, smooth, rounded head. So that's no little bump there. So that's the greater. And then you can see the look of a green. So the graders usually have green, although every now and then you will find a lesser that has a green head. So you need to look to see if there's a bump. And that's, again, due to that crossbreeding sometimes occurs. But look at the amount of white that is on this grader and this male over here. The white is a little bit brighter on the graders. And then if you look at the bill on this one, he's got a really dark nail on the end of that bill. And that's a nice characteristics of a greater scop right there. But if you see this female, right, you know, she's got that white around by her bill there, and her body looks like that, like the lesser, but she has a nice smooth rounded head. So that's the greater. So, but that looks just like a lesser unless you saw that little point right there. So concentrate on your male, see who she's hanging around with, and that'll help you possibly ID who that is. But I would concentrate on trying to identify. If you can find a greater scop male, I say kudos for you and go play the lottery, because they are hard. I've found a few, but I don't have any decent photos of any yet. Oh, I love ruddy ducks. These guys, they're also called stiff tails because this one right here, they can hold their tails straight up. And when they're courting their females, they'll raise their head up and down like a, just like a little spring with their tail sticking up, and they are just a fun little duck. And they are small. They could just a little bit bigger than the palm of your hand. They could sit in your hand if they would sit still. And here's their breeding color. They're also, one that's part of the bluebills. There's several ducks called bluebills along with the Scots, but there's that bluebill with that beautiful maroon body, that black across the head, the gray and white cheeks right there. So one of the key pointers for telling you got a ruddy duck is because you've got a really small duck and you've got that tail going straight up. They don't always, like you can see on these, they don't always raise their tail, but when they do, you've got one there. But when you've got this breeding coloring all right here on these males, that you've got a ruddy duck right now. And there's been a lot of them through the refuge this winter, fall and winter, with this beautiful coloration on them. And I love them when this color. Yeah, I love the breeding plumage better, but they're just a beautiful little duck all season long. So even when ducks have their eclipse plumage on, they're still beautiful, but they're just a fun little duck. And considering their body size, they've got a little bit of a fat bill. It's not wide like a shoveler is, but it's a wide bill for such a small bodied duck. And then you can see our females and our males right here. So these are all out in the estuary during the fall. So just fun little ducks. And you can see the little tail up there, and you see how small they are. And they can really paddle around in rough water. So buffleheads, and you get these guys in the sun, and they've got this beautiful feather sheen to them. The iridescent colors show, and you can get all kinds of colors. You've got the dark blue over here on the one on the left. You've got the green and the purple on the one on the right. They've got a small little bill, and there's no other duck with this amount of white. You might think hooded merganser, but the bill is different on these. But with this bufflehead, it's got that tiny bill and this white on the back of the head. And it's not a larger bird. It's probably about only 2/3 the size of a mallard, a little bit bigger than a ruddy duck, but they're a small little duck. And then you got the female over here. She's easy to identify once you learn the body size. She's got that white cheek patch right there and that small bill. So these guys are really fun. They come through the refuge, and you see them through the winter. They'll be here shortly once we get some open water. And one thing I want you to guys, if you ever see them in flight, they have a little, and sometimes just when they're courting, they have this cute little pink feet. And it's hard to see it in this photo and everything. But when they're courting their females, they'll pick up and do a little flight for about a few feet, and then they'll drop down, and they'll float back to the female, and they'll pop back up, and they're just showing off for the female. So if you ever see a bunch of males and females around, just stop and watch them for a little bit and watch them land, and you'll be able to see those pink little feet because they are darn cute. But there's another description of a diving duck right there, is because you can see where the feet are located. Feet and legs are located not directly underneath them like a mallard. They're back. So these are another diving duck. But these guys are really fun to find. And when you find them in the late winter, early spring, and they're courting their females, because when the ducks are migrating through here, they're headed, they need to get their females so that they're ready when they to start nesting when they get back to their breeding grounds. Oh, one of my absolute favorites, and my friends can tell you, when I see a goldeneye, I get excited, and I'm like a kid in a candy store. Common golden eyes, they will go through here quite a bit. They're more skittish than common mergansers. They see you and they're gone. But I was able to sneak up on some of these guys and got this one. The photos on the left actually came from the estuary. I had the shuttle out, and I saw that guy was still in the area, and I stopped the shuttle cold, and I was just like, oh my God. And I grabbed the camera and was out. And he let me blow off some great photos of him. But look at that white cheek patch and that dark head. And look how this feather, the wings on the feathers, that's little striping. No other duck has this kind of coloration with that beautiful eye. That, because, goldeneye, that's how they get their name. There's a Barrow's goldeneye that's up in the Arctic and everything. Doesn't come our way. I would love to see one. That's still on my want list, but look at the shape of the head, that beautiful eye. That no other duck looks like this. And once you see a photo of one, you'll know you've got something special as soon as you see it live. And these are the females right here. They're kind of reddish on the head with that beautiful eye and the dark bill, a little bit of white around the neck. And then they've got the kind of like dark gray body. You can find several females with a male sometimes. So these are a beautiful and a fun duck to find. And yeah, my friends can attest how excited I get when I see one. And then a couple years ago, well, I guess we have to add another year, we had a great visitor to the refuge. We had a black belly whistling duck. Most ducks, come from the north to come here, and this guy came from the south to come here. They're down in the coastal U.S. and down into Mexico. So this guy decided to come and pay Ohio a visit and decided to come north. So they got the beautiful pink legs. You got the black belly. You've got the orange bill, little point on the head right there. And the size right here is a little bit discerning with the swans in the background, but these guys really are way smaller than the trumpeters, but they are bigger. They're smaller than a Canada goose and bigger than mallards, and they're taller, way taller than mallards. But they give you an idea of some different shape for them. So it was a fun little visitor that we had for a couple weeks. Oh, and then I was so happy when this long-tailed duck, this is a female. So when she arrived, I was so excited, and I went over and got photos of her. The males have the long white, depending on how old your guidebook is, and your guidebook is probably going to call it an old squaw because they were renamed many years ago. But I know I have guidebooks. God, if I dated myself right there, that call them old squaw. But they're actually called long-tailed ducks. So the males are black and white with a long tail on them. And unfortunately, I don't have any photos from the refuge for these guys, but it's a beautiful black and white bird with a nice long thin tail, way thinner than the pintail duck, because when the long-tailed duck, he doesn't always pick up his tail. It's trying to drags in the water sometimes. But he's a black and white, where the female is kind of this brownish and white. But beautiful, beautiful little bill right there. Beautiful duck. All right, now we're going to give everyone a little test here, because we all know that ducks don't always come with signs and individualities here. So here we've got redheads. We've got ringnecks right here. And then we've got a common merganser here in the foreground here. So when you're at the refuge, they're all going to come. When they come through, they're going to come through in groups. So just try to find one. There's a telltale sign with that ringneck right there. I can recognize the side of the male. That's taken years of experience there, but it's a redhead with a gray body. That's a redheaded duck, not the canvasback. These are all going to be female canvasbacks, and there's probably a female ringneck in there someplace. But just trying to find something in some of these groups to help identify them. So then we've got our tundra swans that are right here. And then right here in the center, these are our American black ducks. Remember I told you to call them a chocolate mallard? Because, when they're all sleeping right here, there's the female mallards in the background. But here's our American black ducks right here. There's our mallards, and there's our northern pintails right there. So you see that female laying there, her body comes more to a point. Then you can't really tell on the female mallards because they're turned around there, but she's kind of a lighter brown than those mallards. She's laying there with her male. So these guys are all sleeping one morning, and I was like, oh, I like that photo. So just remember this couple little pointers to tell them apart there. And then you can get blue-winged teals. You see how smaller they are than the shovelers and the mallards. So we got a male shoveler here. We got a mallard. Here's a male shoveler, mallard, shoveler. So this is what we're going to be seeing here hopefully soon when this weather breaks for us. Crossing my fingers it's sooner rather than later. But we're going to be seeing these mixed collections of ducks when they're coming through here late winter and early spring. So just when you see this group, try to find out the easiest one first that you can identify. Okay, mallards. Okay, well, ooh, that one's got a big bill. What's it got that green head? Oh, that must be a northern shoveler. Oh, wait, this one's got a gray, blue, purplish head with a white crest. Oh, there's my blue-winged teal. So just try to find one or two things with a bird, the easiest one to identify, get that one out of your way, move to the next one, and then move to the next one when you see these large groups and you're trying to identify what all species you have. So then for the speculum, this is where I wanted to tell you to remember that. So this is what's called the speculum here. It's on the secondary feathers on the wing. So this is the primary flight feathers, and this is what's attached to the body right here, down here. So this is the shoulder on the blue-winged teal, where that was blue, and then everyone else is down here. So for your gadwalls, it's going to be red, black, and white. So with American black duck, it's going to be black and blue. So all those little things can help you if you've got one in flight. That'll help teach you to slowly identify your birds by the wing. And down here, I put a little link down here that when you go through the program, that you can look that up online to help you with your wing identification. So just remember that when you review the program to look for that ID. All right, so now we've got our mallards here. You can see that blue and white. And then we got the ringneck duck. Well, you know, it's kind of a blah, but we know what he is, but from his bill. So as you're learning your duck species, just remember, if you got one that's just kind of a nondescript a little bit, just think about, oh, what's that? What's on that bill? Where's that duck's head? And that'll help you identify him. And then here's the maroon, black, and white for the gadwall. And there's the female gadwall up there. She's got that maroon, black, and white up there. And then here's the blue-winged teal. There's her blue shoulder. Here's his blue shoulder, but he's also got some white up there. And he's directing his orchestra right there for us. He's like, ta-da, you've got it. So you ever want to see what the underside of a duck bill looks like? So right here, this pink and black, this is tissue right here. So this is where the bone and cartilage is attached to the skin. So the bill is comprised of bone with a keratin tissue over top of it. And I can tell you that duck bills are very warm. Ducks have a body temperature of about 100, I think it's around 106. And so it's very warm when you touch a duck bill because of all the blood circulating through it and everything. But this tells you what the lower mandible of a duck bill looks like. So they got that tissue that's attached to the bony surface right there. And then, of course, it always looks like they're drowning when they're breeding. Oh, so what's this behavior? So when they're looking up, well, ducks need to look out for predators. So most of their predators are going to be coming in from the sky, possibly. So on this long-tailed and on this snow goose, these guys are tilting their heads up. So anytime you're looking at ducks and if you've seen them turn their head up, they've seen something in the sky and they want to know if there's a predator that they need to be on the lookout for. So diving ducks. So look at the leg position here. So on this ringtail, you see his ring neck. He's got the legs back here. Here's a merganser here. You can see how low far back her are. These are diving ducks. Diving ducks have their legs back so they can dive down into deep water. And this is what they are, all the divers. You can see them. Here's on this red-breasted merganser. Legs are all the way in the back and taking the dive, taking the dive, taking the dive. And this is opposed to puddle ducks. Can you see that their legs, they only go bottoms up. So the legs are right here in the bottom. So that's going to be your mallards, your gadwall, your northern shovelers, your pintails. Those guys are all your puddle ducks are all your kind of your bottoms up. The legs are right there in the center of their body. They're only going to be feeding at the surface or just as far down as they can reach. And every now and then you might find some that are bottoms up and they're, digging really hard and splashing water because there's something just out of their reach. And then here we've got some diving duck taking off. Diving ducks, they can't lift straight up. They have to run across the water. So your puddle ducks, they can lift straight up off the water because of the way their legs are positioned. But diving ducks, they have to run across the water to get that body up off the air. So this is what you can see. So we've got some gadwall lifting straight up, and we've got a merganser that's running across the water. And there's some more running across the water. Can you see those legs run? That's why they make so much water movement, is because they got to run across to get that lift. And then when you have a whole flock of them all together and everything, they all lift up all at once. This is what you get. So if you watch this carefully, and you can review this again when you get back, the recording is boom, boom. There, 3 lifts and they're up. So that tells you what happens when you have hundreds of ducks together and they all have to lift off and try not to hit each other. And those are all red-breasted mergansers. All right, now I threw this slide in for everybody just as a little FYI and everything. So most of the ducks species are either ground or over the water, which means they'll make just have a little floating mass of vegetation over the water that they'll make their nest on. And ruddy ducks is one of those ducks. And because of ruddy ducks are so small, several diving ducks can have troubles walking on the land. Loons have trouble walking on land because their legs are so far back. And ruddy ducks are one of those species. So they float on a mass over the water. So they only have to take a few steps to get up on their nest. So they'll kind of like take a step, fall, take a step because they're lopsided when they're walking. And then your cavity nesters are the hooded, the common, the wood duck, the bufflehead, the golden eyes, and your black-bellied whistling ducks. Those are all cavity nesters. The wood duck and the hooded mergansers will nest in boxes. And then here we go with our common mergansers right here. She was checking out that log there, and the one on the left had a nest that she was incubating on. So now we're going to move on to our geese. So we're going to confuse you guys some more on some of these.
Laurie, you need a little break. Pause. We have a couple of questions if you want. Just 2 or 3.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So I think just going to quickly go through. Jackie was asking what satellite properties you can see mergansers said.
If it's the red-breasted mergansers, West Harbor, and let's see, off of the shore of the estuary trail are good places for the red-breasted common mergansers. Let's see, where all have I seen the commons? The commons usually in the estuary. I think commons you can find over at West Harbor also.
Okay.
Hooded mergansers, they like West Harbor, but sometimes you can find them on the other side of the bridge from West Harbor, because I've usually seen them over there on the opposite side from where the red-breasted are.
Perfect. Yeah. Ken had a question about date range, the peak period when you can see various duck species. Paul did post like a bar chart from eBird, but anything that you can add to it? Like, what's the peak time to see the ducks?
Um, they're gonna, once this weather breaks, later this month, beginning of March, we're gonna start seeing some ducks come through. Some of the first ones we're gonna start seeing are the ones that can handle a little bit more colder climates, like the golden eyes, the common mergansers, some of those ones, the buffleheads. Those will be some of the first ones to be coming through. But we can also have buffleheads here through May. Some of them kind of stagger a little bit. So each year is a little bit different. Each species is a little bit different because we can have dabblers and divers all come through at different points. When they're heading south, like during the fall, we had a lot of gadwall at the refuge for about a month, and then it got cold and they moved south, and then the mallards moved in from the north. So it's
Okay.
going to be it's going to be different from when they move south. So when they come north, it's going to be coming through in different groups and everything.
Makes sense. Yeah. Ken had another question. Beside the mallards, the wood ducks, and blue-winged teals, are there other duck species that nest at the refuge? I think you had a picture of the merganser maybe roosting on.
The hooded
Yeah.
mergansers, the nest there. I believe blue wings have. They're so secretive with their nests. I don't know for sure who all nests there, because of the way they hide their nests and things. And usually I don't find them and I don't see them until the ducklings are half grown. But I have suspicions that there probably are some. I haven't asked the refuge staff, but that is a good question that I probably should ask them to find out. Because I know they know more than I do. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm sure there are some other duck species, especially at some of the satellite properties, that probably nest around the
That's-
refuge.
Sounds good. Maybe one quick, I think dabbling and puddle ducks are exchangeable words, right? That you use them for just same as dabbling are your puddle ducks.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Bill had a question about common loons. I think I remember seeing a common loon a couple of years ago at the front pond. But any
Yes.
other records?
I don't know what all the records are for them. I know that was the last one that was seen. Um, but I mean, there is always that possibility. When loons come in, they just need to land on a spot that they can take flight on, because
Hmm.
they need
Long
I
distance to flight.
don't I
Take
don't
off.
remember, I don't know the exact distance anymore. It's off the top of my head, but they need a long distance to be able to take that flight so they can lift off, because they've got that long body. They're a diving species. They need a lot of room to be able to get that lift because of that heavy body that they need to lift off the air. If you think about sometimes watching trumpeter swans run across the water, well, a loon needs to run a little bit further than a trumpeter swan to be able to
Oh,
get that lift up and everything.
cool.
So I'm not sure. We can do some checking on what the loon status. I can
All
check
right.
the
Paul just shared something also. Yeah. And
oh,
I
thank you,
know
Paul.
we'll move over to geese, but there's one quick question from Donna. What's your favorite duck? I know that may not be easy, but yeah. Yeah.
I have several favorites. I've got to say the golden eyes probably up there at probably the top, because I don't know, there's something striking about that duck, and I can still remember when I saw my first one. But probably my very top, if I had to make a very top one, it's got to be the golden eye.
Oh, cool.
And then I'll have several others right after that.
Thank you. Thank you for taking those questions. I know. Just keep typing them, Laurie. I think you can continue. I know you have geese and swans to cover. Thank
Okay.
you.
So I know a lot of people don't like Canada geese, but they are excellent parents and everything. That's why there are so many of them. There are so many of them. But what I want to share with you is just how they protect their young right here. And a lot of people on this, they'll see them in the water with their heads extended and everything and wondering what that is. And that's just their defensive strategy. If they were on land, they would have their heads down and walking towards us or something. And that's just their defensive strategy to protect their young. So they do it in the water, they do it on land. Sometimes you'll see them with the mom and dad with all the all the chicks, goslings in between them. But that's why they're good parents, is they like to defend everything. So now we've got our snow goose. So we've had some snow geese. When they come through, it's only one here and there. There's no high numbers of them that we see usually. But some key points for looking for them is they need that little black gren line right here. So they got the mallard right there. So larger than a mallard. They got that nice rounded head. Look at this nice little body, long neck. So little key points to look for, is the this little grin line, small bill, a rounded head, and then that'll help out that long neck. That'll help you, learn to identify them. So with geese, with snow geese, because then there's also the Ross's goose. Whoops, I got another snow goose for you. Sorry. So here's a snow goose, next to a Canada goose here, so you can see the size. Well, just a little smaller than this one's also standing, on an uphill incline a little bit. But I like this photo and I wanted to use it to give you a little bit of a differentiation of the two. But you can see the neck's a little bit shorter than the Canada goose. Got a little more rounded head than a Canada goose. And then there's also, and this is not a refuge property. I threw this one in just to show you, whoops, I gotta quit that. To show you the blue morph of the snow goose. So this is the blue phase or blue morph, and both the snow goose and the Ross's goose can have the color change. But this is what they call a blue morph, but it actually looks brown. All right. So now we're going to go to the Ross's goose. So can you see the difference there? You got that little shorter bill. There's no grin patch. You got that smaller head and smaller neck. And so those are little key things that you need to look for to help identify the Ross's and the snow goose apart. So when you see one, it's just like, oh, what's the shape of the head? What's the shape of the neck? What's that bill? Is that duck smiling at me? I do not see a grin patch. So try to look for those little pointers to help you when you see these little guys. So, and these are compliments of Tony's for these photos. So this will tell you what they look like next to a tundra swan in flight here. So smaller bodies, but they still have that black wing. But here, body size, you can see that nice, smooth, rounded head, no grin patch. So okay, now I've not seen, well, I've seen cackling geese at the refuge, but I've not been able to photograph them. So these photos did not come from the refuge, but these are great photos to help you identify them. These are difficulty. I still struggle every now and then with them, but cackling geese look just like a Canada goose, except they've got like a head, like they got bounced on the head and their head shrunk. So they got a short neck, short bill. You can see that small rounded head, but you got a little bit of a white patch on their neck. But can you see how short that head is? Because if that was a Canada goose, its head would be up here, So this is just a small little head on a, just a little bit smaller than a Canada goose. But yeah, they look like a Canada goose that's been dropped on their head with a little, kind of like they shrunk their neck and head. Then the great white fronted geese. I love these little guys. I get excited when I find them. So once you see a photo of one, you should be able to identify one. So they got the orange bill, they got the white on the front of their head right by their bill, then a nice rounded brown body. We've got that beautiful brown body there. That little white diaper butt that a lot of people call on geese. But that nice, beautiful brown body with that oar. And these are beautiful ducks. I've seen them a few times, but they are few and far between when their sightings come through. And Tony captured these beauties in flight for us. So there you can see a really good look at their body colors. So you got that orange bill with the white, that dark neck, and then the mottled gray, brown and white across their body. Just beautiful, beautiful geese. So once you've seen a photo of one, you probably almost guaranteed you'll be able to identify it again. All right, so we're going to move on to swans. We'll talk about trumpeter swans and we're going to talk about tundra swans. I do not talk about mutes because mute are non-natives and they're mean to our native species. And now we're going to talk about that ski slope bill, that long bill that comes down. And I'm waiting to get a photo of a tundra swan like this. That's my goal this winter, hopefully. So you can see that nice long neck, nice long ski slope, just like the canvas back. And that nice long ski slope bill, you can get on their forehead and just slide right out. And at that large neck, large body. And for those that are not aware of it, they get the trumpeters, and some of the tundras have it too. They get the orange staining on their feathers from the tannins in the water. The tannins are the leaves and the vegetation that stains the tannins that stains the water, that stains the feathers. And that's tells you how much tannins are in some of the waters that because geese, or sorry, swans feed so heavily with their heads in the water. That's why their heads are stained. So, and you can see there's that long ski slope coming straight down the forehead, down the bill, a little bit of a red line right there. And notice how this black on the bill encompasses the eye. It comes right around the eye a little bit. So you got that nice long neck, then you got the wingspan. So notice the wingspan, notice the length of the neck, and keep those in mind when you're trying to learn how to identify them from tundra swans. So then we got our tundra swans. So one key thing for that most people use for the tundra swans is the yellow on their by their eye. But on occasion, you may find a trumpeter with yellow. So that's not, I don't always assume that. Look for the head shape. You got that short little round head right here and a shorter neck with a kind of a smaller body. Now, you see how short that neck looks compared to that wingspan here. And then we've got, here's the wingspan with the long neck. These are all, then we've got this right, look at those little shorter necks, that rounded head there. So, and you see here, that nice smooth rounded head. This is a little bit larger head. Look where the black is coming, and that black for the tundras is just right there to the front. So this is compassing on top of and almost just coming to the bottom of that eye. That'll help you identify, help you identify where they're coming from. So just, look for the yellow. Yes, look for the yellow, but look for some other things to go with it. You mean, don't rule out the yellow, but yes, the yellow is one thing we look for, but that's not the only thing. Look. So you can see that more rounded head. You got the black right there. So just look for those little things when you're helping. So the tundra swans are going to be here. Last year they left in March. They're going to be here till March. Usually they're here till April. So we still have some time to help you guys learn how to tell tundras and trumpeters apart. You'll have difficulty, you'll learn, you'll forget next by the end of winter, you'll learn again, and by the following year, you'll have it down pat. Oh, and this is out in the estuary. It's when you see thousands of scops come through the refuge, you know spring is coming. So those are, majority of those are lesser scops. I think there's a greater scop out there if I remember right. I can't remember where, but I love it when they come through by the thousands. And then you got the tundra swans, and then we've got the mallards taken off. We got just a beautiful time when the migration hits at the refuge. The mallards come through by the hundreds. And we've got our beautiful little trumpeter swan there. But see how that black goes up around that eye and encompasses, it doesn't come just to the front. Got that wide forehead. There's got a beautiful red head right there because it's got the yellow eye for us. And then there's that point on that female pintail with the male pintail. So there is the end of our program for us with our beautiful northern pintails.
Thank you, Laurie. Thank you so much. Awesome session. I don't have any additional questions that have been typed in, but I did have a question. Actually, I didn't read my question. Greater and lesser scarps, what's the difference? Is just that little bump created two species of ducks,
It's
or
well, they're different species, but there's just the greater scops. The numbers are low. They're not as heavy populated as the lesser scops.
okay.
So they have the same areas a little bit, but yeah, it's hard to tell them. And when they interbreed, that takes away from the greater scops also. So you need the that longer nail bit on the end of their bill. They need a really dark black tip for that nail bit on the end, and they
Okay.
need that rounded head, and that'll give you a true greater scop. But they're hard to find. I have seen them, not good photos ops for them, but they're hard to find sometimes.
Oh, yeah. No. Jeff has a question. He was just asking, pie-billed grebes are not ducks, correct? Right? Or are they?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. And so I know I went through some of that a little bit fast for you, but you guys will have the program to review it and everything. And if you guys see me out and about, and if you have questions or anything, feel free to ask me. I'll try to help you out and everything. But just remember to look at your guidebook. If you don't like it, look up for another one and review this program to help find some pointers to help you identify your ducks.
That's awesome. Thank you, Laurie. Everybody have a great rest of the evening. Stay warm. Laurie, hopefully the drive is open on weekend, but I know the weather is a little
I think
iffy. Yes,
it's gonna be iffy.
if yeah.
Yeah, we
But
got
thank
ice
you.
over here, so.
Isa, yeah. No, thanks again so much.
Right.
Good night,
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody.
Yeah. Bye bye.